My fiancée insisted I sell my ancestral home because it's old and her friends would judge. I said, I'll think about it. Then I put the house in a trust under my sister's name and put the engagement on hold. When she found out the house was no longer on the table for our future, she lost her mind. I'm a 32-year-old engineer, a pretty straightforward guy. The most important thing in my life, aside from my family, is my family's home. It's not a mansion, but my great-grandfather built it with his own hands. Every generation of my family has lived there. It's legally mine, passed down, and it's my history. I am never, ever selling it. For the last 3 years, I've been with my fiancée. We got engaged 6 months ago. She's vibrant and social, but also very, let's say, image-conscious. Her friends are all in that quiet competition over who has the bigger diamond or the better job. I always found it exhausting, but I tolerated it. The whole thing blew up one Tuesday night. We were on her laptop, and she was scrolling through listings for these huge, modern, open-concept houses in new subdivisions. I thought we were just daydreaming. Then she pointed to one and said, "It's an investment in our future. We need a place that reflects who we are." I nodded, still not getting it, and said we'd have to save up. She closed the laptop and turned to me, all business. "We don't have to wait. We have a huge asset we're not using." My stomach just dropped. I knew exactly what she meant. I kept my voice even and said, "If you're talking about my house, that's not an asset. It's my home." She actually laughed at me. She called it a relic, said the kitchen was tiny, the windows were drafty, and this was the part that got me. My friends would, well, they'd wonder why we'd choose to live in a place like that. She framed selling it as a logical and smart move to fund our new, impressive life. I told her flat out, I am not selling my family's home. It's not happening. That's when she lost it. She started pacing, accusing me of putting dead relatives ahead of her and our future children. She said, "You're choosing a pile of old wood over me." It was a full-blown ultimatum. The fight was going nowhere, so just to make it stop, I finally said, "Okay, fine, let me think about it." She instantly brightened up, came over and kissed me and said, "I knew you'd see it my way." She went to bed thinking she'd won. I just sat there in the dark, realizing that the woman I loved had just shown me her love was conditional. The next morning, I didn't call a real estate agent. I called an estate lawyer. My lawyer was a total pro. He didn't blink when I laid out the situation. He suggested an irrevocable trust. It's basically a legal fortress. I'd transfer the house into the trust. The trust would own it, not me. I could still be the beneficiary, meaning I could live in it and enjoy it, but I would have zero legal power to sell it. The trustee would be bound by the rules I set, and rule number 1 was, the house cannot be sold. I named my older sister as a trustee. She understands what the house means. When I called her, she was furious on my behalf and immediately agreed. The process took a couple of weeks. The entire time, my fiancée was on cloud 9, sending me listings for our new place, talking about countertop materials and landscaping. I just played along, giving non-committal answers like, still looking into the finances. It felt crummy, but I needed to have the armor in place before I went into battle. With the trust finalized and the house legally shielded, I knew I couldn't put off the other conversation. The house was a symptom. The disease was our completely different values. I sat her down that Friday night. I said, "We need to talk about the wedding." She immediately chirped, "I know. I found the most amazing photographer." I cut her off. "No, I think we need to put everything on hold." Her smile vanished. I told her, our conversation about the house, it brought up serious issues. An engagement is a trial period for marriage. And right now, I feel like we are failing the test. We are not on the same page about family, about respect, about what matters. She, of course, blamed my stupid house and my sister. The conversation devolved quickly into a full-blown argument that went on all weekend. It was tense and miserable. Finally, on Sunday evening, she delivered what she thought was her checkmate. "Fine," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. You've had your little panic attack. Are you done? I spoke to a realtor friend of mine today. She thinks we can get on the market by next month and close in 60 days. So let's just drop this and move forward with a plan. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. She had gone behind my back and spoken to a realtor. I just looked at her. There's a problem with your plan, I said calmly. Oh, really? What's that? I no longer own the house. The confusion on her face was immediate. She actually asked, "What are you talking about? Did you sell it already without telling me?" The flicker of excitement in her eyes at the thought of the money was nauseating. No, I said, I put it into an irrevocable family trust. My sister is the trustee. It can't be sold. Not by me, not by her, not by anyone. It is legally off the table. Permanently. She just stood there, processing. I could see her expression shift from confusion to disbelief, and then to a shade of pure, unadulterated rage I had never seen before. "You did what?" she whispered. "I protected my family's legacy," I said. "You went behind my back and schemed with your lawyer to screw me over," she shrieked. "That house was our future. That money was for us." "No," I corrected her. "That money was for a version of you I don't think I recognize anymore. And the house was never on the table." She had a complete meltdown. She started screaming about how I had deceived her, how partners compromise. I told her, "That's not compromise. That's a hostile takeover. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a financier." In the middle of this, her mother showed up. My fiancée must have texted her, because she walked right in using her spare key. She rushed to my ex's side and glared at me. "I knew you were too good to be true," she snapped. "A nice boy with a good job and a wholly owned property. My daughter has been planning a beautiful life for you, and you pull this stunt." They were tag-teaming me, painting me as a villain for protecting my own property. The use of the phrase, "locked up the money," was telling. They never saw it as a home. Then, during their tirade, my fiancée wailed something that froze my blood. "All our plans," she sobbed. "The down payment on the house in Crestwood, the deposit for the club membership. It was all timed perfectly with the sale closing in May." I froze. "What did you just say? What down payment?" She stopped, realizing what she'd revealed. Her mother shot her a panicked look. "No, don't you dare," I said. "What down payment in Crestwood? We never agreed to that." I walked over to her laptop, which was still open. She tried to grab it, but I was faster. I opened her email. I didn't even have to search. There it was. A signed purchase agreement for a new construction home for $1.2 million, and a wire transfer receipt for a $50,000 non-refundable earnest money deposit sent from her savings account 2 months ago. She had put a deposit on a house I had never agreed to buy, fully expecting to pay for it with the proceeds from selling mine. This wasn't just entitlement. This was a level of deception that was pathological. She had been building a future for herself, using my assets as a foundation. I looked at the two of them, a united front of delusion and breathtaking entitlement, and I felt nothing but cold, clear certainty. "The engagement is over," I said. "It's done. I want you to pack your things and be out of my apartment by the end of the week." "You can't do that," she shrieked. "Watch me," I said. I walked to the bedroom, pulled an empty suitcase from the closet, and threw it on the bed. Then I turned to her. "And I'll be needing the ring back." Her face went pale. "No, I'm keeping it, for my pain and suffering." "That's not how it works," I said, a grim smile on my face. "That ring is a conditional gift. Under state law, you have to return it. But don't worry, my lawyer will be sending you a certified letter to that effect tomorrow." The letter from my lawyer arrived at her mother's house 2 days after she moved out. It demanded the immediate return of the $18,500 ring within 10 business days, or we'd file a suit. Her response was a string of furious, rambling texts, which I just screenshot and forwarded to my lawyer. Then, the best part, I started getting calls from wedding vendors, the photographer, the florist, the ridiculously expensive reception hall. They were looking for their final payments. It turned out my ex, in her boundless ambition, had signed contracts for a wedding that cost north of $80,000. She had paid the initial deposits, assuming the windfall from my home sale would cover the rest. The deadlines were now looming. One particularly panicked call came from the wedding planner. "The final payment of $25,000 for the venue is overdue," she said. "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied calmly. "However, I never signed any contract with you or the venue. My name is not on any of that paperwork. The wedding is off, and any financial obligations are solely between you and my ex-fiancée, who signed the agreements." There was just stunned silence. Her own grand, deceitful plan was a financial time bomb, and it was blowing up right in her face. She was out the $50,000 earnest money for the house she couldn't buy, and now she was on the hook for tens of thousands in non-refundable wedding deposits and cancellation fees. On the ninth business day, a small, insured package of the ring arrived at my lawyer's P.O. box. Her final act was a social media smear campaign, claiming she discovered a dark side of me and had escaped a toxic and controlling relationship. I let it sit for a day, then made a single post. I didn't tag her. I just wrote, "My engagement has ended." An engagement is a promise, not a contract. A home built by my great-grandfather is a legacy, not a line of credit. Sometimes, you don't see a person's true character until you tell them no. I wish her the best in resolving the contract she signed and the financial commitments she made without my consent. My family's home is safe. End of story. People read between the lines. Her post suddenly looked a lot like damage control. She took it down within 24 hours. I heard through the grapevine that she and her mother had to take out a substantial loan to cover the wedding debts. I'm sitting in my ancestral home right now. It's quiet and peaceful. The whole ordeal was a brutal pressure test, but it showed me the cracks that were always there. I learned that the best way to deal with a bully is often to just stand your ground and let them be crushed under the weight of their own expectations.